When the church doors opened, every head turned. Some faces lit up with curiosity, others twisted into smirks. The whispers began even before she took her first step down the aisle. Her gown was different, too simple for a wedding of this size, her makeup barely there, and her veil trembling slightly with her uneven breaths. The bride's name was Lillian Parker, and that day she was walking into what would be remembered as one of the most shocking weddings the small town of Oak Ridge had ever seen. Before we dive deeper, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the beauty of true love beyond appearances, please take a moment to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us spread more stories that touch the heart and remind people of what truly matters in life. Lillian had never been the kind of woman people admired. Growing up, she was quiet, shy, and painfully self-conscious about her looks. Her skin bore the scars of a childhood accident, her left leg carried a slight limp, and years of cruel teasing had carved deep insecurities into her spirit. While others blossomed in youth, she learned to hide. At school, she was the one left out of photos, the one they called names behind her back. Even as an adult, Lillian never fully escaped that shadow. She worked as a librarian, often staying late to avoid crowds, finding comfort in the silence of books that didn't judge her. Her life was predictable, lonely, and quiet, until Ethan Monroe walked in one rainy afternoon. He wasn't like anyone she had ever met. He came to the library often, returning books days early just to have an excuse to talk to her. He had kind eyes, the kind that really looked at a person, not through them. Lillian tried to keep her distance, assuming it was pity or politeness, but Ethan was persistent in the gentlest way possible. He would leave small notes on the desk, asking how her day was or recommending his favorite novels. Slowly, she began to open up, sharing her love for poetry, for stories that healed broken things. Months turned into a quiet love story that no one believed would last. When Ethan proposed to her under a canopy of twinkling lights in the library garden, she was too shocked to speak. For a moment, she thought it was a cruel prank, the kind she'd experienced before. But his sincerity, the tears in his eyes, and the trembling of his hands told her otherwise. He wasn't joking. He wanted her, scars, limp, fears and all. When news of their engagement spread, Oak Ridge erupted with gossip. Ethan Monroe was known, handsome, successful, kind-hearted, a man most women admired. People whispered that Lillian must have trapped him somehow, that it was a sympathy engagement, or that something was wrong with him. At the bakery, in the salon, even at church, she felt the sting of laughter hidden behind polite smiles. Her own relatives advised her to reconsider, warning that she'd embarrass herself walking beside someone like Ethan. But Ethan never wavered. Every time she doubted herself, he reminded her, "You're the most beautiful soul I've ever known, Lil, and that's what I'm marrying." Still, as the wedding day approached, Lillian's insecurities began to grow louder than his love. When she looked in the mirror that morning, she saw not a bride, but the girl everyone had mocked for years. Her dress was secondhand, chosen not for its trendiness but for its simplicity. She didn't have a makeup artist or a stylist. She only had her trembling hope that maybe, just maybe, love could make her enough. When she arrived at the church, her heart nearly stopped. The whispers began instantly. Some guests exchanged glances, some women giggled behind gloved hands, and even a few of Ethan's relatives looked visibly uncomfortable. One of the bridesmaids, unaware Lillian could hear, muttered, "This must be some kind of joke." Her hands went cold. She wanted to turn back, to run away, to save Ethan from the humiliation. But then she saw him, standing at the altar in his dark suit, his eyes fixed on her like she was the only one in the world. He smiled, not the polite kind, but the kind that melted every shadow of doubt inside her. Still, as she took each slow, unsteady step down the aisle, she could feel the weight of judgment pressing on her. Every whisper was a knife. Every smirk was salt in an old wound. Her father's arm trembled as he led her forward, whispering, "Ignore them, sweetheart." But how could she? The laughter, quiet but sharp, echoed louder in her mind than the music. Finally, she reached Ethan. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. He squeezed her hand, his thumb brushing against her trembling fingers. For a moment she thought she could hold it together. But then from the back row, someone laughed, loud, cruel, unmistakable. The sound sliced through the air like glass. The room fell into an awkward silence, and Lillian's face turned pale. Everyone waited to see how Ethan would react. The priest hesitated. Lillian's lower lip quivered. And then Ethan did something no one expected. He turned to face the guests, still holding Lillian's hand tightly, and said in a calm but commanding voice, "Before we continue, I'd like to say something." The murmurs stopped instantly. Ethan took a deep breath. "I know many of you are wondering why someone like me would marry someone like her." The crowd stiffened. "You think she's not beautiful enough, not elegant enough, not perfect enough. But let me tell you what perfection looks like to me." He turned to Lillian, his voice softening. "Perfection is the woman who stayed with her mother every night when she was sick instead of going to parties. Perfection is someone who forgives the people who once made her cry. It's someone who carries scars, not because she failed, but because she survived. And Lillian, she's the strongest person I've ever known." He faced the crowd again, his tone steady but filled with emotion. "You laughed when she walked in. But I promise you, one day, you'll tell your daughters to find a love like hers. Because beauty fades, but kindness, courage, and the heart she has, that lasts forever. So if anyone still thinks this woman isn't good enough for me, I assure you, I'm the one who's not good enough for her." A silence fell so heavy that it could be felt. Some people looked down in shame. A few had tears in their eyes. The laughter was gone, and in that moment, Lillian felt something shift inside her. A weight she had carried for years began to lift. Ethan's words didn't just silence the crowd, they silenced every cruel voice that had ever haunted her. When they exchanged vows, her voice trembled, but her heart was steady. Each word felt like reclaiming a piece of herself. She no longer cared about the stares, the gossip, or the smirks. She cared only about the man who saw her, really saw her, when no one else ever did. After the ceremony, people approached her differently. Some apologized, others simply looked at her with quiet respect. Her father cried as he hugged Ethan, whispering, "You've given her back her worth." And as they walked out of the church together, hand in hand, sunlight streamed through the stained glass, painting them in colors of hope and redemption. Their wedding photos went viral after someone from the crowd posted Ethan's speech online. At first, Lillian was embarrassed by the attention, but soon, thousands of comments poured in from people around the world. Messages of love, admiration, and tears filled her inbox. "You gave me hope," one woman wrote. "Your story reminded me that love still exists," said another. Ethan and Lillian didn't become celebrities. They became symbols. Symbols of love that defies judgment, of courage to be seen when the world tells you to hide. They went on to open a small nonprofit together, helping people with visible scars and disabilities find confidence and self-worth. Lillian began giving talks at schools, sharing her journey. Every time she spoke, she carried the same quiet grace she had on her wedding day. Strong, real, unshaken. Years later, when a student asked her what she remembered most from her wedding, she smiled softly and said, "The moment he chose to speak. Because in that moment, I realized love isn't about being perfect for the world. It's about finding someone who sees your soul and calls it beautiful." That night, after the event, she sat beside Ethan under the same stars where he'd once proposed. He looked at her, the same way he always had, like she was everything. "You know," he said, "they stopped laughing a long time ago." She smiled, taking his hand. "Yes," she whispered, "but even if they hadn't, I'd still walk down that aisle again, every single time." And for the first time in her life, Lillian believed it. Not because of what the world said, but because she finally saw herself the way Ethan always had. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded that love is more than skin deep. Subscribe to our channel for more real, emotional, and inspiring stories that celebrate kindness, strength, and second chances. Before you go, comment below, what do you think makes someone truly beautiful? Because sometimes the most beautiful people are the ones the world once laughed at.